Hi guys, last week representatives of the Labour Party and the Conservatives met in secret to discuss ways to smoothen out the bumps of Brexit. Well, that's what sources close to those attending the talks are implying. But can the problems of Brexit be undone without the UK rejoining the EU, the single market or the customs union? One of the proposals that's been presented by both people who support Brexit and those against it is Switzerland. The small European country's relationship seems appealing to both pragmatic Brexiteers and hopeful rejoiners. Single market membership without EU membership? Could Britain have something like that going forward? Well, the short answer is no, but the long answer is, well, it's complicated. So before I explain why it would be problematic and ultimately highly unlikely, it would be correct to say that on paper the UK could have a deal with the EU similar to what Switzerland has. The Swiss relationship with the EU's predecessor began at around the same time as the UK's. Switzerland signed a free trade agreement with the EEC back in 1972. But before this, Switzerland, along with the United Kingdom, were both members of EFTA, the European Free Trade Association. While Switzerland remained a member, Britain left in 1972 to later join the EEC. But let's focus on Switzerland. The country has over 100 bilateral treaties with the European Union, which see many renegotiated from time to time as changes take place. It could be argued the most important took place in 1999 and 2004. These saw Switzerland adopt rules and regulations governing air traffic, road traffic, agricultural products, technical trade barriers, public procurement and science. The 1999 agreement also saw Switzerland adopt free movement of people. The second batch of agreements in 2004 saw cooperation on policing, the establishment of the common veterinary area, and Switzerland's membership of Schengen. All of these had to be passed by the Swiss people in a number of referenda. This means that the process is slow and cumbersome. It also required lengthy negotiations between Brussels and Bern. And relations between the two have not always been friendly. In 1992, EEA membership was rejected by the Swiss people, which saw negotiations for EU membership bounce back and forth for the next 20-odd years to be eventually suspended. In the late 2010s, both the EU and Switzerland clashed over stock market equivalence, which then saw negotiations only resume in 2021 under new management at both entities. And most recently in 2022, talks began on getting Switzerland back into the Erasmus Plus along with the Horizon Europe projects. The latter already enjoys cooperation from countries like Israel and New Zealand. But back to Britain. In order to access the single market, which would be the ultimate goal politically for both parties, if they're being honest with the public, is via three routes: EU membership, EFTA, or bilateral agreements like Switzerland. But this would require accepting the four freedoms: people, goods, capital, and services. It must be remembered that non-EU members of the single market do not have any say in how the rules are written. Some of them can provide input, but the final decision is with the EU. Would Britain be okay with that? There's also the issue of negotiations. When it comes to Switzerland, the general public were mostly supportive of greater integration, which meant that referenda were more likely to win the support necessary to move on to the next stage. What would be the case in Britain, where Parliament has the final say? There's also the issue that the party in power may have a wholly different approach to negotiations with the European Union and what they wanted to achieve. We have already seen the problems with the current Tory party when it comes to the Northern Ireland Protocol. Imagine negotiations taking place for months and years. Once again, technically Britain could join the single market, as Switzerland has demonstrated. The political systems and the attitudes to Europe are completely different in both countries, however. A more logical step to take would be for Britain to join the EU. Rejoin is probably not the correct vocabulary when it comes to EU membership. Britain would have to fulfill all the necessary criteria, but when it did, it would have a seat at the table, not like Switzerland. I've tried my best to explain this as I understand it. Switzerland's relationship with the EU is complicated both legally and politically, something diplomats in Brussels have said that they would not like to repeat. So we will have to see what British politicians come up with and what is acceptable for Europe too. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.